California Governor Gavin Newsom has been screaming from the rooftops that he's the victim of a Trump-orchestrated witch hunt. He's been posting these awkward videos, playing the martyr, positioning himself as the heroic Democrat standing up to the big bad orange man. There's just one problem, a massive problem, the kind of problem that makes your entire story collapse like a house of cards. There is someone on tape. There was a mole inside the Newsom administration who wore an FBI wire and recorded everything. And more are saying that it's a recording that has all but doomed Newsom's presidential aspirations. You are not going to want to miss this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, enjoying yet another glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe. The New York Post has just dropped a bombshell on the political future. The grease monkey himself, Gavin Newsom, a Democrat power broker by the name of Alexis Podesta, a longtime Newsom ally and appointee who served in senior roles under both Newsom and former Governor Jerry Brown, secretly wore an FBI wire and recorded conversations inside Newsom's political orbit. And here's the beauty of it. According to Podesta's own attorney, the recordings began as early as June of 2024. Now, who, pray tell, was president in June of 2024? I mean, I know what happened in November of 2024, but who was president that previous summer? Well, that would be one Joseph Biden. He, of course, doesn't remember, but yes, he indeed was the Autopen-in-Chief back in June of 2024. And to add insult to injury for gruesome Newsom, Biden, of course, was a Democrat. He was a member of Gavin Newsom's own party. And this has all been further corroborated. The FBI's investigation into Newsom's administration was not initiated by Trump. It started under the U.S. Attorney's Office in Sacramento, California's own capital, based on whistleblower tips from inside Newsom's own staff. So the next time Newsom goes on camera and accuses Donald Trump of weaponizing the Justice Department against him, somebody should remind him that the FBI was already building its case against his political world on Joe Biden's watch, using one of Newsom's own trusted allies to do it. The feds didn't need Trump to tell them something smelled rotten in Sacramento. They could smell it themselves. So now, who specifically was Alexis Podesta recording and why? That brings us to Dana Williamson. Williamson was Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff, one of the most powerful people in California government. She was Newsom's right hand, and she just so happened to be recently indicted on 23 federal charges. 23. Williamson, along with a lobbyist and another Democratic operative, allegedly funneled $225,000 out of a dormant campaign account belonging to Xavier Becerra, the former California Attorney General and Biden's own HHS secretary, and redirected those funds, of course, for personal use. According to investigators, it was brazen, it was corrupt, and it's exactly the kind of thing that thrives inside a one-party machine that's operated without accountability for decades. So in May of this year, Williamson pleaded guilty not to all 23 charges, but to 3. Conspiracy to commit bank fraud and wire fraud, filling out a false tax return, or filing, I guess I should say, a false tax return, and making false statements to the FBI. Now, here's the obvious question more and more journalists and commentators are asking. Why did Williamson get such a sweetheart deal? Why did she get such a dramatically reduced deal? 23 charges reduced to just 3. That's not a routine plea bargain. There are many who are speculating that this was indeed a cooperation deal. It's the sound of someone giving prosecutors something, or someone far bigger than herself. And who do you suppose is the biggest fish in the Sacramento pond? And of course, that is where Gavin Newsom comes in. The FBI wire case doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's one thread in a much larger tapestry of corruption. 3 weeks ago, the DOJ announced that the grease monkey himself was indeed under federal investigation for pressuring companies regulated by the state of California to donate millions of dollars to his wife, Jennifer Newsom's nonprofit, the California Partners Project, and then rewarded those same companies with hundreds of millions in state contracts. So according to investigators, AT&T donated $185,000 to Mrs. Newsom's nonprofit, and in return, they received $260 million in state contracts. Not a bad deal. Comcast donated $15,000 and got $20 million from the state. Kaiser Permanente donated $20,000 and received $172 million in kickbacks. It's a classic pay-to-play scheme that we saw with Biden in Ukraine before the war started there. We saw it with both Clintons, Bill and Hillary, and now we're seeing it with gruesome Newsom. The California Fair Political Practices Commission has already fined Newsom $13,000 for failing to report over $14 million in these so-called behested payments to his wife. He's already been caught once. The feds are treating that fine like smoke, and they're looking for the fire. And that's where these hidden wire recordings come in. They almost certainly provoked the FBI to investigate Newsom himself. And while the investigation is ongoing, the web of scandals surrounding Newsom is already destroying his political future. His ultimate ambition for years has been the White House. But the data that's coming out is absolutely crushing his dream of doing to America what he's already done to California. We've got the stats. Wait until you see this. But first, gang, I do have to admit, I get pitched get-rich schemes just about every week, and I ignore almost all of them. But a few weeks ago, a friend of mine named Jay told me about something different. Not a Wall Street play or some crypto scheme, not even another scheme cooked up by the globalist class to separate you from your money. This is something everyday Americans can do right now, and it's backed by government statute and secured by real American property. The returns aren't set by the market. They're not set by the Fed. They're set by law. And you can get started with as little as $50. I kid you not. Now, here's the thing. I was skeptical, so I didn't ask Jay to explain it to me. I told him, prove it. Prove it to my audience. I said, don't give us a slideshow. Do it. Actually do it. Buy one live in real time in front of my entire audience so they can watch the whole thing with their own eyes. And he agreed to do precisely that. So Tuesday, July 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, Jay is hosting a free live online masterclass, and he's going to buy a real tax lien live right there on the call, start to finish, nothing hidden. He's going to show you exactly what he does to tap into a quiet, steady, law-based strategy that lets hardworking patriots build real wealth on their own terms. You're going to see the entire process step by step with your own eyes. He's going to show you exactly how this strategy works, explain why these financial returns are set by law and not by the market, and then show you how to get started with very little time and very little money. It's amazing stuff. Now, this happens only once, live in real time. When it's done, it's done. So go to turleyclass.com to lock in your spot. That's turleyclass.com, or just text Turley to 72000. That's 72000, or scan the QR code on your screen, tap send, and you're in. Again, it's Tuesday, July 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll see you in the masterclass that will blow you away. Take a look at the latest polling disaster for gruesome Newsom. According to the Daily Mail Jail Partners polling, Kamala has opened up a double-digit lead over Newsom. Her polling is twice as high as his, and it's not just the Daily Mail. Quantus Insights, one of the most accurate pollsters of 2024, they're showing a virtually identical double-digit lead for Harris, which we should note parenthetically is an absolute disaster for the Democrats in the making, right? No presidential candidate who lost an election, came back and won the very next presidential election ever in our nation's history. It's never happened. Richard Nixon ran in 1960 and barely lost to Kennedy. But he sat out the next election, the 64 election. That was Barry Goldwater. He didn't run again until 68. We have never had a candidate who lost a presidential election and then came back to win in the next one. So the Democrats doubling down on Kamala, that's the best news you could run with. That's very good for JD and the Republicans for 2028. But regardless, Newsom's poll numbers are imploding. Here's another one, again, showing a near identical double-digit lead for Harris. Just weeks ago, keep in mind, Newsom was leading all the polls, right? Newsom was leading. He was the tough guy who was going to stand up to the MAGA movement. There are articles already coronating him as the next Democrat presidential candidate. And today he's just another corrupt and crooked politician. Well, maybe an exceptionally corrupt and crooked politician. And it's turning off even Democrats. The Hill reported in mid-June that prominent Democrats were already privately sounding the alarm on Newsom. And their concern isn't whether the investigation is legitimate or not. Their concern is very simple. The optics alone could sink him within the party. They know that the 2028 primaries are going to be brutal. They're wide open primaries for the Democrats. They don't have an incumbent. And so they're going to absolutely hammer Newsom on these scandals and FBI investigations. Remember how they destroyed Bloomberg, right, in the last Democrat presidential primaries? I mean, they killed him. Elizabeth Warren destroyed him on stage. Do you know what they're going to do to Newsom? It's going to be the same thing. And again, the concern here is over how Democrats are going to be hammering gruesome Newsom. Even if he were to get the nomination, he'd be so politically battered that JD could wipe the floor with him. Now, again, remember, Newsom's inner circle is claiming that Trump handed him a gift by turning him into a martyr in a way comparable to the way Biden-initiated investigations turned Trump into a martyr when they raided Mar-a-Lago and the like. But Trump's relationship to the Republican Party is very, very, very different than Newsom's relationship to the Democrat Party. Several sources close to the governor have openly expressed that they are genuinely worried, especially about what the investigators may already know and how that's going to be exploited by their fellow Democrat candidates. So let's zoom out and name what we're actually looking at here, because it's pretty impressive stuff. Impressive, of course, if you are MAGA. Gavin Newsom's own chief of staff has pleaded guilty to 3 federal felonies. It's probably a sweetheart deal for her to give a little bit more information, find a bigger fish in the Sacramento pond. A trusted Newsom ally secretly recorded his inner circle for the FBI, and she's been doing so since June of 2024, which started under Biden, of course. Shortly thereafter, Newsom himself came under active federal investigation for a pay-to-play scheme, funneling millions through his wife's nonprofit. His 2028 presidential poll numbers are in a free fall, and members of his own party are already positioning themselves to take him down in the 2028 primaries. Now, I've been saying for months that the House of Cards California Democrats built, a machine of unaccountable power, taxpayer money, and crony backroom dealing, that House of Cards was going to come down eventually. Well, it looks like it's coming down. Not because of a partisan witch hunt, not because of Donald Trump, but because someone inside that machine, someone Newsom trusted, decided to wear a wire. He's on tape, and the FBI, as we speak, is listening.